with me, Shivani Gupta. A major controversy erupted yesterday after Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar used rather graphic and crude language and gestures to underline the significance of women education to control population. Basically, he was talking about sex and intercourse. This was all transpiring inside the Bihar Assembly. The BJP went all guns blazing against him, and he was forced to eventually condemn his own statement and apologize in the Assembly today. But the Saffron Party is not satisfied with just that. They want Nitish Kumar to resign from the post of the CM. Despite an apology by the Chief Minister himself, his party JDU and his alliance partners, the RJD, are strongly defending his comments. They are in fact slamming the BJP for misinterpreting Nitish Kumar's speech and calling it a statement more about, quote, sex education than anything else. It's important to highlight here that Nitish Kumar came to power because of women voters. JDU claims that they've ensured participation of women in developmental policies and programs by the Nitish government, which in turn was the reason behind the rise of number of women voters in Bihar. But now making statements like these, the kinds I cannot repeat on TV, with vulgar gestures inside the assembly is highlighting altogether a different story. This is as much about culture around women, sex and family planning, as much about decency that elected leaders should display in public life. On all counts, the Bihar Chief Minister has failed and shamed the state. But to defend these statements as some sort of progressive talk on sex education and importance of women in family planning is the absolute pitch. These leaders sure need some training themselves in how to behave at workplaces and create a safe environment for men and women alike. Has the Chief Minister not ended up actually humiliating women under the pretext or in the garb of talking about education? We take that question to our guests in just a bit. I can't quite repeat or break down the statement Nitish Kumar has made, but I will begin by breaking down the apology that he has tendered today. He did clarify his statements after much furor, and effectively it has come in only because there was a furor made by most opposition parties. So he said that I apologize and condemn my own statement in the assembly. My words were not intended to hurt anybody. He added that he has maintained throughout his career that education is necessary for population control, and that's the message he was trying to give, and that he has always stood for women empowerment and development. That is what his model has been. While he did apologize earlier, the Prime Minister today took up this issue and slammed Nitish Kumar for his comments at an election rally, asking just how low will you stoop and whether you have any shame left. This is more of what the Prime Minister said. He talked about how Nitish Kumar used vulgar words inside the assembly. He also pointed out interestingly that politically no other INDI alliance members are speaking up against Nitish Kumar, even though in the past they have of course raised issues about women dignity and safety. He went on to say Nitish Kumar is defaming the country, the nation with these comments. Will such people ever work for the benefit of women? Is the question the Prime Minister asked, and this is a question going not just to Nitish Kumar's JDU or his alliance in Bihar, but because of this India alliance, it is going to everybody part of that. He also went on to say finally, will such people ever respect women? Now interestingly, this is not the first time that Nitish Kumar has made some bizarre or even insensitive comments while being Chief Minister or being in an important constitutional post. Let me just take you through some of these bizarre statements in the past. So for example, in December 2021, a woman BJP MLA asked him a question, but his response was this: "You are so beautiful, don't you know what we did for Adivasis?" Now it's very difficult to put in context what he's trying to say or why such language is okay in response to what question, and these are the kind of bizarre statements I'm talking about. Quite like what happened yesterday in Assembly. While inaugurating a women hostel, for example, he has said that we had no girls at college, in college. It seemed bad. Not sure why the Chief Minister is making statements like that. He also said at a similar event that somehow, while he was somehow talking about dowry and similar such topics which may seem progressive and of course in interest of women, he went on to say there will be no childbirth if men marry men. Again, it's a kind of comment which is very difficult to really fathom. What is the Chief Minister trying to say? But here's another example of an insensitive comment made by the Chief Minister. This is after a Hooch tragedy. He went on to say, if someone consumes liquor, they will die. Matter of factly, as if anybody who consumes alcohol dies. that it's not about spurious liquor, as was the case in Bihar on so many occasions. Now, the NCW has not been satisfied with the apology either made by Nitish Kumar. So, the NCW chair, Rekha Sharma, has shot off a letter to the Speaker of Bihar Assembly, going on to say that Nitish's statement was like a C-grade film. She added that it's a message to all women in front of men, the kind of language that was used. She even targeted fellow male MLAs in the assembly who were seen laughing when Nitish Kumar was making these objectionable comments. She claimed that Chief Minister's gestures were almost like an ugly joke. She also demanded that apology is not enough and the Speaker must expunge Nitish Kumar's statements. It's important to highlight here that there is immunity provided to MLAs and MPs for what they say on the floor of either Parliament or Assembly. So they cannot be really prosecuted for that, but certainly the Speaker can take some action, and that's what NCW Chief is asking for. The question we ask is this: it's not just about the fact that these comments were made and the apology tendered a day later. It's also the defense that is being put forth that this was somehow about female sex education. Is that not basically a defense for humiliating women in assembly? We'll take that to our guest next.
अगर मेरी किसी बात को लेकर के तकलीफ हुई है तो मैं अपनी बात को वापस करता हूं और मैं अपनी निंदा करता हूं। इंडी अलायंस का एक भी नेता माताओं बहनों के इतने भयंकर अपमान के खिलाफ एक शब्द बोलने के लिए तैयार नहीं हुआ। जो माताओं बहनों के प्रति ये दृष्टिकोण रखते हैं वो कभी आपका भला कर सकते हैं माताएं बहनें?
मुझे डर है कि ये मुख्यमंत्री जी का याददाश्त लॉस हो चुका है, मेंटल तौर पर अस्वस्थ है, इसलिए इनको पद पर बने रहने का कोई औचित्य नहीं है।
तो मुख्यमंत्री जी ने कहा था इसमें कौन विवाद है? जिसको कुछ नहीं मिलता है उसको यही सब विवाद नजर आता है।
Hello, Moto.
First up, I want to go across to BJP leader Khushbu Sundar joining us. Khushbu, Nitish Kumar has apologized publicly. He's taken back his words. Why is it that the BJP is insisting that this apology is not enough?
How can it be enough? You have already displayed your vulgar mindset to the world, and that too in the temple of democracy is what we talk about, whether it's parliament or the assembly, a place where women are supposed to be worshipped, a place where you keep heaping praises on yourself, saying that 60%, 65%, I have looked after the women have voted me to power, and here you are on a full display showing your crass, vulgar mindset, very misogynist mindset to the people. And just an apology, you say that tomorrow you're going to get away with murder. You say, I'm sorry, I killed someone and let me get away with it because I've tendered an apology. This is not acceptable at all.
One of the defenses that have come to light, or that have been given initially at least, and some still continue to harp on it, is that fundamentally the Chief Minister was talking about sex education, or particularly women's role and importance in family planning. How do you look at that defense that has been presented?
What kind of a defense is that? Who speaks in this manner in the parliament and saying this is about sex education? Did the Chief Minister say anywhere that I am speaking because it's about sex education? Did he say anywhere that because I want women to be educated about how to protect themselves and speak about it? You were in power. You have been in power for so long. Did you speak to women at any given point about population control? Did you speak about this, or how to support women? Did you try to bring a sex education in your state education policy? No. And who needs sex education in such a crassy manner on the floor of the house? I mean, you mean to say that very senior citizens who are there of Mr. Nitish Kumar's age and even older to him, they need sex education? Or the people who have been voted to power, who are adults, who know what sex is about, they need sex education? What kind of a defense is this? I don't understand at all. Or the person who speaks this, that's saying that this was Tejashwi said that this is about sex education. Does he need a sex education? I don't understand. I don't think you need this kind of a sex education in the parliament or in assembly.
Or in assembly.
Because Mr. Nitish Kumar wants to be in the parliament. He wants to be the face of the prime minister in the coming elections in 2024. So is Mr. Nitish Kumar saying that he's going to be in the parliament and this is how he's going to comment or make remarks about sex education? What are we even talking about?
Well, this is of course the larger question if this kind of behavior and comments behooves a chief minister. But you know, even after his apology, his political alliance partners like the RJD have doubled down. They've buckled down a little bit and they've gone on the offensive to say that, you know, look at what happened to women in Manipur, including the assault that they had to bear on their private parts or similar instances. And they believe that there was little to no outrage about that versus what is being said about Nitish Kumar's comment.
I really don't understand that you bring in something which so horrific has happened to the women of this country. Yes, what happened in Manipur shouldn't have happened. It's absolutely horrific and this is going to haunt us for many, many years to come. Centuries to come probably, like what happened in Hiroshima and it still continues to haunt us. What happened in Manipur is definitely going to haunt us for a very long time and it's a blot on India. But I would say that why bring that with this? We have spoken about it. I'm saying people who jump with Manipur, did they know about this incident before we did? Before BJP did? And if they did, why is that they were keeping quiet about it? If you were aware that this is what is happening, BJP has spoken about it. I have spoken about it. NCW has immediately taken a cognizance and they've taken a suo moto. And Rekha Sharma ji rushed to Manipur when we got to know about it. And if you knew about it, why were you keeping quiet? Were you waiting for somebody else to bell the cat? Or you wanted to be in the good books and not, you know, because you think that, oh, the votes matter and that is why we are not going to speak about it? It's absolutely uncalled and it's not at all justified to defend Mr. Nitish Kumar's statements with what happened in Manipur. And I think this is what is very, very frightening and scary because somebody does something wrong, you immediately say that, okay, this person did wrong, so it's going to make my version right. No, both are wrong and both shouldn't have happened. So you cannot defend with something else which horrific has happened, as horrific as what happened in Manipur, and say because that happened, what Mr. Nitish Kumar says is absolutely fine. Please accept it.
Okay. I'll leave it at that. Khushbu Sundar, thanks a lot for joining us. It remains to be seen, of course, how this matter can be taken forward. But I also want to open this up to our other guests joining us. Joining me now, Charu Pragya of the BJP. Jayant Jigyasu is RJD's national spokesperson. With me is Mayank Sinha, political advisor to Bihar JDU. Mayank Sinha, let me begin with you. This has really demeaned the position of the Chief Minister, the chair of the Chief Minister, a Chief Minister making such comments in this fashion. There is no justification for it, frankly, to be using this language or to be so graphic about, and to use pedestrian language, if I can use that term. कि गली मोहल्ले में जो नुक्कड़ में खड़े होके चार मर्द जिस तरह की बातें करते हैं ना, उस तरह की भाषा यूज की गई है असेंबली में, वो भी चीफ मिनिस्टर के द्वारा. तो it has brought down the significance and the respect for the chief minister's chair, but in this case for Nitish Kumar himself.
देखिए, जब आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी रैली को एड्रेस कर रहे थे तो उन्होंने क्या बोला था, बेटी पढ़ाओ बेटी पटाओ. तब कहाँ थे मीडिया के लोग, सोए हुए थे? अरे
उन्होंने बेटी पढ़ाओ नहीं बोला था. देखिए मयंक जी, प्लीज आप इस तरह की आर्ग्यूमेंट मत रखिए.
नहीं, आप मेरी बात सुन लीजिए.
गलती से किसी के मुंह से कोई गलत शब्द निकल जाए और कोई भाषण देने के वक्त पूरी बात बताए, उसमें अंतर होता है.
देखिए क्वेश्चन आप पूछ ली थी, अब मुझे जवाब देने के लिए 1 मिनट या 2 मिनट का समय दीजिए. क्या तो बोलिए कि हम क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे, बीच में क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे, बीच में क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे.
चलिए, अब आपको उसी से कंपेयर करना है तो आप उसी से कंपेयर कर लीजिए.
पहले बात आप आइए कि माननीय नेता ने जो बोला, अगर किसी की भावना को ठेस पहुंचा तो उन्होंने आके माफी मांगा ना। किस बीजेपी के नेता ने मणिपुर की घटना के बाद आके माफी मांगा? भूषण शरण सिंह ने क्या अभी तक माफी मांगा? सेक्सुअल एब्यूज और सेक्सुअल जो चीज चल रहा है
उसका क्या कंपैरिजन है?
मांग लिए। अरे आप बताइए, सेक्स एजुकेशन की बात वो नहीं कर रहे थे, वो आपको पॉपुलेशन कंट्रोल की बात कर रहे थे।
हाँ।
और पूरी बात को समझिए, पूरी कॉन्टेक्स्ट को समझिए। उन्होंने लोकल लैंग्वेज का सहारा लिया। बिहार के लोग बहुत पढ़े लिखे, बहुत शिक्षित नहीं है।
हाँ।
ठीक है, बहुत लोग अभी गली में रहते हैं, मोहल्ले में रहते हैं, झुग्गी में रहते हैं, झोपड़ी में रहते हैं।
adding insult to injury.
नहीं है।
नहीं, इनको बोलने दीजिए एक बार। चारू,
आप बात सुनिए ना मैडम। आप बोलने दीजिए। चारू मैडम, आप सुन लिए बात को। जब आप बोलिएगा तो मैं नहीं बोलूंगा, ठीक है? तो उन्होंने एक लोकल लैंग्वेज को एड्रेस करते हुए फैमिली प्लानिंग के बारे में बात किया। बिहार जो है आज के डेट में डेंसेट पॉपुलेटेड स्टेट है। हम जो है कि दुनिया में सबसे ज्यादा। और पहले जो बिहार में प्रजनन दर था 4.8 था।
वो बात सब ठीक है, बट आप अभी कह रहे हैं कि आपने अभी बोला।
सुनिए ना।
नहीं, मुझे आप लेक्चर मत दीजिए, थोड़ा सा आराम से बात कीजिए। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, सबसे पहले तो मेरा सवाल सुनिए। आप नहीं, मेरे सवाल से आप हट नहीं सकते। जो मैंने सवाल पूछा है उसके बारे में भी आपको एड्रेस करना पड़ेगा। मेरा सवाल आपसे, अब मेरा सवाल आपसे ये है कि आप जस्टिफाई कर रहे हैं कि नीतीश कुमार ने जो बोला सही बोला, जो भाषा में बोला वो भी सही बोला, जिस वजह से बोला वो भी सही बोला, जिस तरीके से बोला वो भी सही बोला। तो सभी सही था तो माफी क्यों मांगी?
अरे तो मैं तो आपको बता ही तो रहा हूं।
हाँ।
कि बोलने के कर्म में अगर किसी व्यक्ति को आघात पहुंचा है तो उन्होंने माफी मांगा।
नहीं, तो आघात पहुंचा तो किसी वजह से पहुंचा है।
फैमिली प्लानिंग की बात।
अगर आपके घर में महिलाएं हैं भाई साहब,
अगर उन तो बेशरम नहीं ना है, संवेदनशील है। भारतीय जनता पार्टी अपनी महिला ब्रिगेड को आगे कर आप पहले हमको बात कंप्लीट करने दीजिए।
महिला ब्रिगेड नहीं है। एक मिनट, मैं शिवानी के शो पर आती हूँ, महिला का इशू है या नहीं है? आई एम नॉट पुलिंग द वुमेन कार्ड हियर एंड यू बेटर नॉट थ्रो द वुमेन कार्ड एट मी ऑन एन इशू लाइक दिस। यू बेटर नॉट डू दैट। आई एम सॉरी शिवानी।
नो, यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट। कल को ये बोलेंगे कि मैं फीमेल एंकर हूँ इसलिए मेरी महिला ब्रिगेड चल रही है यहाँ पे। ये कोई बात करने का तरीका है? आप बताएंगे महिला ब्रिगेड क्या होती है?
बात सुनिए पहले, ठीक है? पहले बात सुनिए। तो उन्होंने
I'm done listening to you. I'm done listening to you, Shivani. Can I please come in?
Yeah.
No, this is only adding insult to injury.
I quit your show. I am not joining your show. I quit your show. If you are not able to speak me and you are pampering each and every second, it is not a habit of the good day show. Okay?
I'm trying to follow your English. Unfortunately, Mr. Sinha, I'm not able to follow your English. I think it's better. You don't just quit the show, you quit politics. Ask your leader to also quit politics. You will do a favor to the rest of the country. Do that.
No, this is just appalling behavior.
महिला ब्रिगेड बता रहे हैं आप.
To say that महिला ब्रिगेड को आगे कर दिया गया है just because there is a female spokesperson on the show to defend the kind of comments you are making is absolutely appalling. And then to threaten to leave the show.
I'm sure men are equally offended.
No, absolutely.
I've heard enough leaders from my party to also speak against the statement.
It's not fine
maybe
to come and then not take
some gender sensitization classes. I think that whole party needs gender sensitization classes. Shameful. He's as bad as his leader.
No, Jayan Jigyasu, Charu, just one second. I'll come back to you just one second. Jayan Jigyasu, the RJD spokesperson, is also with us, and RJD has also defended these comments. I don't really understand how any of this is about education. When your entire message is some sort of a water cooler conversation between men, I don't know how this is about female importance and women's role, because actually the message is not for them. You will never talk to a woman like this in your personal life. You will never talk to a woman like this in your family to explain women's role in sex education or in family planning. I think it is leaders in Bihar who need some sort of sensitization and training on how to talk about sensitive issues.
Yes, may I speak?
Yes, please go ahead.
We as a society have been hesitating to talk on intercourse, physical relationships, safe sexual relationship, and all these things. So the neither the subject was very trivial. It was very serious discussion on population control, and nor the intent was vulgar. So whatever Nitish Kumarji had to say, he said it very straight and very clearly. And when somebody's sentiment got hurt, he unconditionally apologized. He has condemned himself. He has expressed his regret over his remarks. But the thing is that we all know that when women are educated, they have their say. They can express their reluctance. They can express their unwillingness while they are in a relationship, be it in a living or be it in a married life. So what is wrong with it? I am unable to understand at all.
Okay. You're saying you don't understand what is wrong with it. So let me elaborate one more time. It's been a day since, 24 hours since these comments have been made. I am shocked you're still wondering what is the problem. The problem is not, of course, about discussing the role of women in family planning. It's not the first time a leader has done so. Certainly, we are not that backward also that we don't know this concept. I don't know how you feel, how far ahead Bihar is. And it is not also about sex education or being hesitant about talking about sex or intercourse. It is the language, the manner in which it has been presented, that too on the floor of the House, Assembly, by a Chief Minister, which is the problem. Now, my simple question to you is this. Will you sit in your living room amongst your family members, including women, and talk to them about their role and in family planning in this way? Will you choose these words? Will you choose these gestures?
Can you allow me to respond to you? When somebody says she is pregnant, this is also not very polite way to say
why is it
like
polite?
this.
And
when somebody says,
polite to say I'm pregnant.
What is so impolite about pregnant?
The word pregnant.
I am trying to say.
This is the 21st century
Charu,
India.
1 second. Charu, please, 1 second.
Century India.
Charu, 1 second.
No.
I'll give you your opportunity. Just 1 second. Yes.
I am just saying that the more polite way to say it is she is in the family way. So
no, it's not.
Sometimes euphemism is missing.
You are also thinking that sanitary napkin advertisement should be shown with blue blood because red blood upsets you.
No, this is not about that kind of politeness or not politeness. 1 second, you are confusing my question. Charu, can you hold on, please? Please.
If you don't
yes.
Jayant
ji, if your argument is there is a polite way and there is a not so polite way.
I have not completed what I want to.
If your argument is there is a polite way and not so polite way to say something, then was this the polite way? I want to understand this. Which way was this?
I am just telling you that sometimes euphemism is missing in the dictionary of the leaders who are doing their subaltern politics. So we cannot blame them to raise such important issues in the House. You know very well
was euphemism,
for the first,
but not a polite euphemism.
No.
This euphemism. He didn't address the issue. 1 second. He didn't address the issue in medical terms or in plain basic terms.
No. He was very clear in his message that in the state like Bihar,
his message with the
spread the awareness for girl education and
I wonder if the Chief Minister has achieved his target of spreading awareness about women education and women role, or has he ended up defaming the state in the manner in which it talks about sex and intercourse and impregnation, which I am not ashamed of talking about, mind you. Thank you. We are all liberated here.
I am quite
But this is not the way to talk about those subjects, and I don't understand why we are being told that, please be broad-minded. Please talk about these issues as if we've never talked about these issues. But this is hilarious. Also, it is not important to talk about this inside the assembly. I'm sorry to say. in the manner that it was discussed.
I am just saying that whatever clarification was sought, whatever clarification was needed, he gave it properly.
No, he apologized. I'll give him that much. No clarification or some justification has come from it. It shouldn't also. But I'm wondering why the RJD is hammering this while the JDU Chief Minister has already apologized on this. But Charu, go ahead. You've heard the arguments from both the JDU and the RJD. Are you also harping on this despite an opportunity?
Please listen, you might have heard of Voltaire.
One second.
What is it?
Sir, रहने दीजिए, कोई बात नहीं. Voltaire की अब मुझे ज्ञान मत पढ़ाइए. ज्ञान जो पढ़ा दिया ना चीफ मिनिस्टर ने, चीफ मिनिस्टर ने जो ज्ञान पढ़ा दिया है असेंबली में, आप उनको थोड़ा वोल्टेयर के बारे में समझाइएगा. मेरे को ऐसे लेक्चर और भाषण मत दीजिएगा, मैं आपको बता रही हूँ. I am interested in a healthy conversation. My question to you was this the healthy manner in which the chief minister should have been discussing impregnation or not? Was this healthy or not?
Very, very significant question.
Healthy or unhealthy?
Dealing with the problem.
Significant, I'm not asking. Healthy or unhealthy?
Right.
Charu Pragya, please go ahead.
It was very much healthy in its nature.
First of all, the Chief Minister has not.
No, so I asked you. Sorry, Charu, I'm interrupting you. I asked you if you would talk about sex education the same way in front of women of your family in your living room. Will you explain it to them like this?
We should talk it openly.
Will you explain it to them like this? Is my question. Then I will believe you that you find it healthy.
Because lack of information leads to
information
some manipulation.
Is separate. It's the manner in which that information is being talked about.
Lack of information.
Lack of information is not the issue here. I asked you simply, आप जवाब क्यों नहीं दे रहे हैं? आप अपने परिवार की महिलाओं के सामने ऐसे बताएंगे सेक्स एजुकेशन के बारे में? हाँ बोल दीजिए अगर हेल्दी लग रहा है तो आपको.
मैं कह रहा हूँ कि if it happens in my
अगर हेल्दी हो रहा है तो बोल दीजिए ना. हाँ ऐसे ही बोलूँगा.
Very happy. Unfortunately, such conversation is not being allowed.
Charu Pragya.
Not being entertained.
Charu Pragya. No, thank you. That is not the truth.
Thank you very much. Shivani,
Charu Pragya, very quickly, please. Thank you.
Let's go back to yesterday. This statement was said not once, but twice. This statement was said with a big fat smile on his face. The people sitting around him were laughing. Now the Chief Minister has a problem using the word sex when supposedly talking about sex education, but he does not have any shame in using vulgar gestures and obscene words. The way he was talking is not befitting of any man, and had he not been speaking in the assembly, he would have been charged under IPC for sections for obscenity, and all the men who are supporting him right now need to remember that. Also, the RJD spokesperson on your screen, sir, there is nothing wrong in telling a woman that she is pregnant or she could be pregnant. Pregnancy is not a bad or a dirty word. That's your mindset. That's the problem. And that is the problem that we have to take very seriously. Do not interrupt me now. I'm not done yet. I am not done yet.
But Charu, the Chief Minister apologized. The question is this. The Chief Minister apologized. Why is the BJP continuing to hammer him? Even an apology in such cases is actually rare. Most leaders will not even apologize.
So I'm coming there. Shivani, now I had two more points from yesterday. First of all, is he trying to say population control is only a woman's job?
Yeah.
Is she only an object whose only purpose is to multiply and reproduce, and the men have no brains and no responsibility whatsoever? Are they animals or are the women animals? It's insulting both ways, whichever way you look at it, and it's a huge insult to the state of Bihar. People coming on television and saying, अरे वहाँ के लोगों को ना यही भाषा समझ में आती है. क्या बात कर रहे हो आप? बिहार के लोगों को ये obscenity की भाषा समझ में आती है. आप सेक्स एजुकेशन बोलते ना, बोलने की हिम्मत थी क्या आपको? पार्लियामेंट में असेंबली में आप एक बार भी नहीं बोले आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट हाउ इंपॉर्टेंट सेक्स एजुकेशन इज फॉर वुमेन. डिड यू से दैट? यू कुड हैव जस्ट सेड दैट. वो बोलने में आपको शर्म आती है. अच्छा, दूसरी बात, आप फैमिली प्लानिंग की बात कर रहे हो. यहां पर आप बोल रहे हो इन्फॉर्मेशन देनी जरूरी है. हाफ इन्फॉर्मेशन, हाफ बेक्ड इन्फॉर्मेशन. व्हाट आर यू सेइंग? इज दैट द ऑफिशियल मेथड फॉर फैमिली प्लानिंग? Is that the way Bihar is going to function in the days to come? Also, Shivani, the Chief Minister did not apologize. Not really. His apology said, अगर मेरी बातें आपको बुरी लगी हो, तो मतलब आपको तो बुरी लगी नहीं ना, आपको बुरी लगी ना आपकी साथियों को बुरी लगी. और क्योंकि आपको बातें बुरी नहीं लगी, tell me which India Alliance leader has spoken out against this misogynist, sexist comment which was made not on the streets, not in a drawing room, but inside the assembly twice. Where is Priyanka Gandhi? Where is Mamta Didi? Where is Supriya Sule? Where are all the women leaders? Where are all the men? In fact, I am seeing man after man after man defending that statement, trying to tell me that calling a woman pregnant is bad. Usko bolna chahiye, she's in the family way. Aap kis zamane mein reh rahe ho bhai? Kis zamane mein reh rahe ho? You want to talk about sex education? Have the courage to say it na. And if somebody talks like that to my girl and calls it sex education, मैं एक लगाऊंगी कान के नीचे और उसके ऊपर ना सेक्शन 294 आईपीसी का केस फाइल करूंगी. I am sorry. Do not pretend that this is clean talk, and it does not befit any chief minister in my country. No, it doesn't matter what party he comes from.
No, this was absolutely laced with innuendos. It was laced with euphemism of the worst kind.
The gestures were so obscene.
This is
you saw his hands when he was talking, Shivani. The gestures were so obscene.
This is water cooler conversation that men have. They tend to have it behind women's backs. We are all aware of it. As a working woman, we are aware of the culture that we have in India or in anywhere in the world. But you would assume that in the workplace, which the assembly is, the chief minister would be cognizant of the kind of language and the kind of words he can use and should use. And I agree with Charu on one point. It is absolutely appalling to be telling women to do what Mr. Chief Minister was telling women to do as a means of family planning. Where is the onus on men? Are you telling me that men can't control themselves and therefore it's the duty of the wives, and that is the sex education you will give to the younger generation today? That you can do whatever you want every night? It will be the duty and the responsibility of the woman to keep herself from getting pregnant? This is sex education? I hope the Chief Minister will realize what he is talking about and the message that he is giving, and please don't defend it in the garb of sex education. I do thank both of our guests for joining us. Coming up after a short break, we'll get you some international updates. The USA has again warned Israel, advising it to not think about reoccupying Gaza after the war or the current offensive gets over. This disparity between the US and the Israel thought right now, we'll take this forward after a very short break.
Hello, Moto.
Beside the smog tower, they are actually figuring out that if at all this smog tower that has been shut for the last 8 months needs any sort of maintenance, any sort of technical glitch that might have come up, and once these glitches are solved, the maintenance is done, we can expect these smog towers to actually go ahead and start function. So these are few of the steps that are being taken by the Delhi government after the court orders to give immediate relief, to provide some sort of immediate relief to the people of the national capital who have continuously been suffering due to this deteriorating air quality out here. Now over the next few hours, it is expected that once the maintenance is done, once the technical glitches are smoothened, we can expect that these smog towers would start to function. But yes, how much significant is it going to be in improving the air quality, especially out here in the Connaught Place area? That is still a big question mark, and that will be answered once these smog towers start functioning, and we can expect that the AQI might be reduced by a significant margin as well. With video journalist Sensitization for CNN News 18. For the 6th straight day, the AQI in the national capital continues to remain in the severe category. Today as well, the AQI in the national capital and the nearby regions is above the 400 mark, which means that the air that we are breathing in continues to remain toxic. Currently, I am reporting from the iconic Akshardham temple, and if I could show you in the visuals over here, the entire area over here has been engulfed with smog and toxic haze. This is the toxic smog that we are forced to breathe day in and day out, and you can see in the visuals over here how this thick layer of smog has engulfed the entirety of the national capital today as well. The situation has remained in the severe category for the last 6 days, and IMD predicts that over the next few days as well, the AQI is likely to remain in the severe category itself. So yes, there is no sudden relief that will be seen by the people of the national capital, who are now running from pillar to post just to get a grasp of fresh air. But a silver lining happened yesterday, where the Supreme Court finally came on record and came down, in fact, heavily on the states, especially in North India, and asked them to chalk out a plan which would eventually mean that this menace of pollution that the people of Delhi and North India have to face year in and year out, a concrete plan is made out so that a solution can be found to this menace. But yes, at this point in time, politics continues over it. But yes, people of Delhi are still scared, as this AQI and the air that we are forced to breathe in continues to remain toxic. Until when it will remain toxic, that is still a very, very big question mark. And at this point in time, what also remains to be seen, if at all our governments, after the Supreme Court came down heavily on them, can finally get their acts together, sit on a table and chalk out a concrete plan, because of which we can do away with this menace of pollution that the people of the national capital have to face year in and year out.
Welcome back. It's been over a month since the conflict between Israel and Hamas began. The US has now warned Israel again about the post-war occupation of Gaza, the possibility of it. Even top diplomats from the G7 have called for, quote, humanitarian pauses in Israel's bombardment in order to be able to deliver aid to Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected calls for a permanent ceasefire and clearly stated that Israel will not stop till the very end. And their end has been very publicly stated, the complete annihilation and elimination of Hamas from Gaza. In fact, Israel's military has surrounded Gaza City, is what they're saying, is targeting terrorists inside their underground tunnels as well. The IDF has claimed to be operating in the heart of Gaza City and have released images of weapons that have been recovered there. But let me reiterate what the US has been telling Israel over the last 20 days or so, and what they have reiterated. So the White House reiterated on Tuesday that it does not believe that Israeli forces should reoccupy Gaza. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said that this will not be good for Israel or for the Israeli people. This follows Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's comments that the country will have overall security responsibility in Gaza for an indefinite period after the war ends. A statement that gives the first insight possibly into Israel's vision of a post-war Gaza. US earlier too, before the ground invasion began, had warned Israel against a reoccupation. You would remember that Joe Biden, in fact, had even advised Israel publicly to not commit the same mistakes America did post 9/11. But this is how Mark Regev, senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister, has responded.
We're not talking about any sort of ongoing occupation of the Gaza Strip. Once again, we want the Gazans to rule themselves, and we think there'll be an international effort for that. But if you bring up the Palestinian Authority, I want to say what needs to be said. We're a month today since those terrible October 7th massacres, and the Palestinian Authority has still refused to condemn them. And I'm sorry, their silence speaks volumes. And for them to say that they're a peace partner and at the same time refusing to condemn the sort of atrocious violence. The German Chancellor compared the violence we saw to the Nazis. Yes, they refused to condemn it. That is a problem for Israelis across the political spectrum in my country.
Now, lots of pressure and questions have been mounted on Israel since the October 7 attacks, from calls for a proportionate response that we're still kind of figuring out what that means, to being demonized as a brutal assault force. Israel has heard it all. And here's the position it has maintained even now, despite the fact that its friend America is piling on some pressure on it. So on the occupation of Gaza, on that question, it has very clearly said that they're not interested in reoccupying Gaza. Gazans will eventually rule over it and govern themselves. On the temporary ceasefire that is being asked of for a few days, no ceasefire with Hamas till they release hostages is Israel's position. On humanitarian aid also, while some corridors have been opened, Israel has maintained that there will be no corridor through Israel until the hostages are released again. On civilian casualties, this has been, of course, the biggest pressure point for Israel, but they have consistently maintained that they are allowing corridors for the population to move from danger spots to other areas, and it is Hamas, in fact, that is using Gazans as a shield, and because their ultimate aim is to eliminate Hamas, they're not going to let Hamas's tactics succeed. On stopping strikes altogether in Gaza, those who have said that Israel should just stop the bombardment altogether, they have very clearly said that we do not intend to stop and they will eliminate Hamas. Certainly they will not go back, or Gaza will not go back to the pre-October 7 situation. The big question we ask though is this, and our guest will be joining us. As far as this offensive is concerned, what will a post-war Gaza really look like?
I did ask him for a pause in the past, yesterday. Still waiting to hear some other things. אנחנו נמצאים, כוחות צה"ל, בלב העיר עזה. הם הגיעו מצפון ומדרום. הם הסתערו בתיאום מוחלט בין כוחות היבשה לכוחות האוויר והים.
Gaza City is encircled. We are operating inside it. We are increasing pressure on Hamas every hour, every day. We have killed thousands of terrorists, above ground and below ground. No ceasefire without the release of our hostages.
Let's go across to our guest joining us. Deepak Vora is a former Indian diplomat. Professor Madhav Nalapat, geopolitical analyst, is joining us. Also, Jay Engelmeyer, publisher, executive editor, The Judean, is joining us. Jay, why don't I begin with you? There's a lot of pressure mounting, not just for a humanitarian pause, but also, for example, what the US has reiterated, that under no circumstances should there be a post-war Gaza which is reoccupied by Israel. But the Israeli Prime Minister's position seems to be that there will be some of that happening for an indefinite period of time. Should Israel rethink this?
No, absolutely not. Not definitely not for the long term. I think what the Prime Minister was talking about is that in the interim period of time right now, because we do not know how long this is going to take to weed out Hamas and weed out the terrorists within the Gaza Strip. Israel is acting alone right now. There are no other boots on the ground other than Israeli forces. I think this is what the Prime Minister had been referring to. There is no appetite within Israel to reestablish a connection within Gaza, and there's no desire to establish an Israeli community within Gaza. I think at this point in time, the focus literally is getting the hostages back and weeding out the terror groups and destroying the terror infrastructure. And I think when it comes down to it, I think this is what has to be understood about the Prime Minister's words.
But the US seems to be very concerned. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. The US seems to be very concerned, even with that indefinite period that he's talking about. So how do you look at that concern?
I look at that as pressure that the U.S. administration of Joe Biden right now has from people on the left within his base. While Biden has been a staunch supporter of Israel the entirety of his career, and he's proven so even during this conflict right now, there are elements within the Democratic Party that want a ceasefire, that want it to stop. And they've been threatening him on a political level with taking away votes from Michigan, which would be crucial to his re-election efforts in 2024. And I think that at this point in time, they have to say the right things necessarily. I agree that Biden is echoing the sentiments of pretty much every Israeli as well. There should not be a long-term presence after this conflict within Gaza for Israel. That being said, we don't know how long this conflict is going to take, and that's why I believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu used the exact words for indefinite amount of time, because it is indefinite how long it will take.
Okay, so that is indeed a concern. Professor Madhav, don't you think that this is indeed unclear territory for Israel? Because while it is, on this offensive and it is clearly the dominant power, nobody really knows how long it will take to sanitize the Gaza Strip of Hamas and what that post-Hamas Gaza would look like.
Well, I'd like to point out that the ideology of Hamas, the political ideology, and it is backed by methods of terror by the military wing. In my view, it is a feasible task to completely eliminate the military wing of Hamas. It's going to take a much longer time to try and tackle the ideology which is driving an organization such as Hamas. But it can only, well, first of all. Secondly, the reality is the Palestinian Authority is the only player now with, frankly, that can effectively to take over governance in Gaza the way it is of the West Bank. And I'm sorry to say that the Palestinian Authority has been systematically, its self-respect has been removed, it has been systematically ignored. And I just wish that the government, the Netanyahu government, had paid as much attention to Gaza as it paid to the West Bank.
No, we heard from the advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister earlier.
A terror organization called Hamas.
No, Professor, we heard from the advisor to the Prime Minister earlier, and they seem to be very upset with this so-called Palestinian Authority. Where have they been for the last 1 month? They've been conspicuous with their absence. They've not condemned anything that has come in from Hamas. They're not really on the ground, or they don't really have the support of the public either, from what I hear. So how are they going to take over after Hamas?
I'd like to say very clearly that I have not heard anybody in the Israeli government condemn the settlers who have settled in the West Bank, established certain homesteads there, which again, the United States is among the many countries that are opposed to that. The fact is there are certain political limitations. Unfortunately, the info war is being won by Hamas. Hamas has basically wrapped itself in the flag of the Palestinians and more concerningly, wrapped itself in the flag of a very great faith. And that is the problem. And that is what keeps the Palestinian Authority from basically speaking out more against what is its mortal enemy. One of the main targets of Hamas, in fact, many of the members of the authority have been killed by Hamas, is the Palestinian Authority. But you have to give it some self-respect. You have to treat it properly. And I think if that is done, then if you build up its self-respect, it will be a valuable partner. There's no question about it.
Okay, so you're saying that there is a viable option in the Palestinian Authority to take over after this ground offensive is done. Diplomat Voraji, what is your opinion on this? What can a post-war Gaza look like, and what are the options in front of the world?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Always a pleasure to be with you on your amazing channel, to learn from you, to learn from our colleague from Israel, and also from Professor Nalavat, whose knowledge is much greater than mine. To our colleague from Israel, I hope you can see me. Behind me is a flag of Israel and a flag of India. You know where my sympathies are. May I just tell you something, sir? In Hebrew, ma'am, Bitzakon le Israel. Israel, eliminate Hamas, save the world. Now, we have entered the end game. The tunnels are being pulverized along with hundreds of terrorists hiding inside them. So your question is, what happens to the Gaza Strip after Hamas is obliterated? You are too young to remember this. 1979, when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, there was a chap called Babrak Karmal. I knew him. Came riding a Soviet tank. Was around for 8-9 years in Afghanistan till other funny things happened. There used to be a character called Genghis Khan. 800 years ago, he had said, easy on horseback to conquer a country. It's dismounting and getting off and governing that country that becomes very, very difficult. So I believe that Abu Mazen, whom you know as Mahmoud Abbas, I've met him more than once. He's almost a nonagenarian. He's almost 90 years, 88 or 89, something like that. So this grand old man will come, because there is no option. It has to be the Palestinian National Authority, which was created after the Oslo Accords with the idea of governing both. I think he's going to take over. The Israelis will make sure, I hope they do it for the sake of the whole world, that they get rid of these terrorists and they hand over to Abu Mazen, to Mahmoud Abbas, I call him Uncle Mazen. Hand over to him a land that has been pacified. Ma'am, one fine thing, I'm going to stick my neck out. When the Israeli Prime Minister has suspended a minister who talked of the nuclear option. These things are not said off the cuff. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. I've been in diplomacy 50 years and counting. I know what this means. What I see happening The Gaza Strip and Israel, and I beg your pardon, the West Bank are separated by Israel, almost like East and West Pakistan, although there is no comparison. I believe, this is a very personal opinion based on conversations, that the Gaza Strip will remain with Israel and there will be an exchange of territory and population, so that the West Bank, or the nucleus of the state of Palestine in the future, is a unified piece of territory which will be run by the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Whether this happens or not, I don't know.
Okay.
But my feeling is that this is the only solution. Everybody talks of the two-state solution. Finally, the joker in the pack is Iran. America has sent this subsurface ballistic nuclear, SSBN as we call it, nuclear armed submarine. It's a message repeating what Joe Biden had said, that look, if Hezbollah and Iran are thinking of messing around in Israel, my advice is don't.
Okay.
He said it twice. This is a message. So I believe we are now looking at the end game.
Okay, we're looking at the end game. It could be over soon. Certainly the IDF says, Jay, that they are in the heart of the Gaza city. They've had some successes, of course, over the last 1 month or so. But my final question to you is this. There are people on the American side that also seem to be concerned that even the friends of Israel are beginning to worry how long a window Israel will have to carry out its ground offensive before this chorus on humanitarian crisis takes over. Already, they believe the questions are getting larger and larger and difficult to ignore. What is your thought on that?
Well, I actually believe that the Western powers that are pushing for this at this point and that are believing this are reacting to the protests within their own street, within their own cities. I think that if you look at what the Allies did in Mosul when they wanted to get rid of ISIS, there was no time limit. There was no pressure for them to stop. I think the Mosul operation started in September or October. It ended the following July. And I think that nobody asked them to stop because they understood what was at stake. Israel, for some reason, there's a double standard. And I think that you have a lot of activists on the streets of Western cities right now who are making a lot of noise. According to the polls, they are the majority in terms of their opinion. But again, they are very large, very violent, and very disruptive. And that is making some of the leaders nervous, which is why they're putting pressure on Israel right now. Okay. Do I believe that this can end soon? Of course it can end soon. It can end soon when Hamas decides to give back the hostages and give themselves up. Sky News actually reported today that Yahya Sinwar's bunker is being surrounded right now by Israeli troops. If that's true, that's a good sign because that means that the end is closer than we think.
All right. I'll leave it at that. I do thank all of our experts for joining us. We'll keep tracking this very, very closely because, of course, world stability is also very closely linked to what happens in the Middle East. It has been a month since terror struck at that music festival in Israel. But for survivors, it's a day that changed their lives forever. Tears well up in one such survivor's eyes as she stands in silence in the place where she narrowly escaped death a month ago. A 30-year-old bartender, she recounts how she smeared her face in a victim's blood to play dead.
May Hyatt has thrown herself to the ground at what she thinks is rocket fire from Gaza.
I can't believe this is happening to me.
She can't believe it because it was here a month ago that she narrowly escaped her own death in one of the biggest massacres of the October 7th Hamas attacks. The Nova Music Festival in Israel, where 260 people died. She was a bartender and only here now to come to terms with the memories. Like hiding in a hole with a man until Hamas found them and killed him, escaping when the gunmen started arguing over whether to kill her, too.
This is where I laid down, yes. Here was the bar. Here was the stage. While I'm lying under the stage, I see that they're shooting at people to make sure they're all dead. So the body lying next to me, they shot him in the head. I took the blood and wiped it on my face, and I simply lay still like they were, to seem dead. And I waited for the army for about 2 hours under the stage, until about 1 p.m. or so. It all started at around 6:30 a.m.
Hyatt's ordeal ended when Israeli soldiers arrived several hours after the attack began. as the war between Israel and Hamas continues, she'll be one of many Israelis and Palestinians struggling to deal with the trauma.
Co-powered by
The people of Delhi are continuously facing this health hazard that has come up because of the rising pollution levels out here in the national capital. Yesterday, the Supreme Court finally took cognizance of this entire situation. After the hearing that happened in the Supreme Court ordered the Delhi government and Delhi Pollution Control Committee to go ahead and open these smog towers that have been closed for the last 8 months. The main accusation was that this does not affect the air quality out here, and that was the reason why this was closed, because remember, this entire smog tower was built at a cost of rupees 22 crores and it took almost rupees 10 lakh per month to maintain this smog tower. But since the air quality in the national capital has deteriorated to such a level that over the past 6 days the people of the national capital are being forced to in fact breathe in severe air category AQI, and hence this order was given to go ahead and open this. This morning the chairman of the DPCC actually came over here and opened the locks of the gates over here, and at this point in time the technical committee and the maintenance committee are inside the smog tower. They are actually figuring out that if at all this smog tower that has been shut for the last 8 months needs any sort of maintenance, any sort of technical the glitch that might have come up, and once these glitches are solved, the maintenance is done, we can expect these smog towers to actually go ahead and start function. So these are few of the steps that are being taken by the Delhi government after the court orders to give immediate relief, to provide some sort of immediate relief to the people of the national capital who have continuously been suffering due to this deteriorating air quality out here. Now over the next few hours it is expected that once the maintenance is done, once the technical glitches are smoothened, we can expect that these smog towers would start to function. But yes, how much significant is it going to be in improving the air quality, especially out here in the Connaught Place area? That is still a big question mark, and that will be answered once these smog towers start functioning, and we can expect that the AQI might be reduced by a significant margin as well. With video journalist Sensitization Singh for CNN News 18. For the 6th straight day, the AQI in the national capital continues to remain in the severe category. Today as well, the AQI in the national capital and the nearby regions is above the 400 mark, which means that the air that we are breathing in continues to remain toxic. Currently, I am reporting from the iconic Akshardham temple, and if I could show you in the visuals over here, the entire area over here has been engulfed with smog and toxic haze. This is the toxic smog that we are forced to breathe day in and day out, and you can see in the visuals over here how this thick layer of smog has engulfed the entirety of the national capital today as well. The situation has remained in the severe category for the last 6 days, and INDI predicts that over the next few days as well, the AQI is likely to remain in the severe category itself. So yes, there is no sudden relief that will be seen by the people of the national capital who are now running from pillar to post just to get a grasp of fresh air. But a silver lining happened yesterday where the Supreme Court finally came on record and came down in fact heavily on this.
Viewers, it has happened again. Once again, a controversy is raging after yet another member of the INDI alliance, as it's called, has poured venom on the Hindu faith. At this instance, it's a Congress MLA from Assam, seemingly summoning all the bigotry at his disposal. Aftabuddin Molla has sought to suggest that Hindus are predisposed to committing